I'd always imagined my 30th birthday as a quiet marker of success, something small but beautiful. A few close friends, a table dressed in soft candlelight, the kind of evening where the city's skyline outside my apartment windows would feel like a personal fireworks show. Instead, I stood in my living room, while the people who once called me their pride and joy balanced plates of red velvet cake and asked me, almost casually, to give up the very walls around me. "Lena," my mother said, placing her fork down as though this were nothing more than a polite after-dinner conversation, "we need to talk about your apartment." The word "your" landed like a stone in my chest. Across the room, my older brother, Aaron, the one who'd been groomed for greatness since we were kids, shifted uncomfortably. He wouldn't meet my eyes. The clink of someone's wine glass sounded too loud, too sharp. My father cleared his throat. "Aaron's had a setback. Some bad investments. We just need you to, temporarily, sell this place to help cover his debts. It's the right thing for family." The candlelight flickered, catching the gold trim of the picture frames on the mantel. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears, a drum against the quiet. I smoothed the sleeve of my silk blouse, a nervous habit, feeling the soft fabric slide like cool water against my skin. My birthday candles still smoked on the cake. "Happy birthday, Lena." The last time I'd felt this kind of thud in my chest was 8 years ago, the night I walked out of my parents' house with a single battered suitcase and a cardboard box of books. I was 22, still smelling faintly of the coffee shop where I worked part-time while juggling night classes. Aaron had just landed an internship at a high-profile investment firm, and the living room that evening buzzed with my parents' pride. My father kept saying, "This is what we've always wanted for you kids. Someone to make the family name mean something." When I told them I'd been accepted into a graduate design program in Chicago, a program I'd worked 2 jobs and countless sleepless nights to qualify for, my mother barely looked up from her wine glass. "That's nice, sweetheart," she said, her tone light, almost dismissive. "But design isn't stable. Aaron's path is more solid. Maybe you should think about something more practical. Accounting, marketing, something that matters." My father's voice followed, firmer, final. "Your brother's career will carry the family. You can support him, or you can chase hobbies. But don't expect us to fund hobbies." The word hobbies burned like acid. I felt my throat tighten, a lump forming so quickly it almost choked me. I remember gripping the handle of my suitcase until my knuckles went white. My grandmother, who had quietly watched the scene unfold from her armchair, stood and pressed something small and cool into my palm. It was her silver locket, worn smooth at the edges, the faint engraving of a compass rose barely visible now. She whispered, so only I could hear, "Find your own north, Lena. Don't let anyone else draw your map." That night, with my heart pounding and my hands trembling, I stepped out into the biting January air. I didn't look back at the house with its warm yellow lights or the silhouettes of my parents at the window. The city's streetlights stretched ahead like a trail of tiny suns. I walked to the bus station, the locket warm against my skin, and bought a one-way ticket to Chicago with the crumpled bills I'd saved from months of tips. I didn't have a plan, just a stubborn certainty that my life would not be defined by being someone's supporting character. That was the night I decided I'd build something of my own, something no one could ever dismiss as a hobby. Chicago didn't greet me with open arms. It met me with icy wind that sliced through my thin coat and an apartment so tiny I could stretch out my arms and touch both walls of the bedroom. Still, it was mine. During the first few months, I worked mornings at a neighborhood bakery and evenings in a dimly lit cafe, earning just enough for rent and a bus pass. My graduate design classes devoured what little energy I had left. There were nights I came home so tired I would fall asleep on top of my sketchbook, pencil still in hand. But there was a quiet thrill in the exhaustion. Each project I turned in felt like laying another brick in a future no one else could claim. Professor Morgan, my typography instructor, a woman in her late 50s with streaks of silver in her cropped hair, was the first person to really see me. She would linger after class, tapping my sketches with a thoughtful finger. "You have an eye for storytelling," she said one evening, the scent of chalk dust and old books curling around us. "Don't dilute it. Good design is about courage, and you've got it." Her words became my silent mantra during the hardest months. When I landed my first freelance commission, a boutique coffee shop logo for $100, I nearly cried. It wasn't much, but when the owner proudly hung the sign I designed above the door, I stood across the street in the winter twilight, heart swelling like it was the cover of a magazine. From there, small jobs trickled in. I built a portfolio, slowly, stubbornly, while finishing my degree. There were rejections, of course. Some clients scoffed at my rates. Others vanished after promising calls. Each disappointment stung, but it only sharpened my resolve. By the time I graduated, I'd saved enough to rent a slightly bigger apartment and register my own design studio, Lena Heart Creative. The name felt like a quiet declaration. This was not a hobby. This was a life. I never told my parents much beyond the basics. A polite email every few months, carefully neutral updates. Classes are good. Work is steady. Hope you're well. It was easier to let them believe I was just getting by than to open the door to their judgments or, worse, their sudden interest. 5 years later, my studio had grown into a sought-after brand consultancy. I had clients across the country and a team of 3 brilliant designers. We worked out of a sunlit loft with exposed brick and shelves of bright Pantone swatches. The day I signed the closing papers for my own apartment, a 2-bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River, I wore my grandmother's silver locket. The compass engraving, though worn, caught the light when I turned the key in the door for the first time. This apartment wasn't just shelter. It was the embodiment of every late night, every calloused fingertip, every quiet decision to keep going when no one believed in me. And until tonight, until this birthday party, it had been my most carefully guarded secret. The clatter of forks and the faint hum of jazz from my Bluetooth speaker were the only sounds after my father's request. The city glittered beyond the wide glass windows, winter lights scattered like diamonds across the river. I set my wineglass down slowly, the stem cool against my fingers. "You want me to sell my apartment?" I repeated, my voice low, each word careful as though testing the air. My mother straightened in her chair. "It's only temporary, sweetheart. Aaron's debts aren't small, and he just needs a little help to get back on his feet." Aaron's gaze flicked to me and away again, a nervous tick. His expensive watch caught the light. It looked almost mocking. "You're asking me," I said, keeping my tone even, "to give up the home I built so my brother doesn't have to face the consequences of his gambling?" My father's brows snapped together. "It's not gambling. It's investments gone bad. And family looks after each other." The old script. The one where Aaron starred as the prodigy, and I was the supporting character who quietly made sacrifices. I rose from the table, my silk dress whispering around my legs. Their eyes followed as I crossed the living room, past the abstract canvas I'd commissioned from a local artist, bold strokes of cobalt and gold that felt like a mirror of my own restless heart. "Do you see this place?" I asked, gesturing to the high ceilings and the floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city's glitter. "Everything in here, every square foot, came from years of work you never bothered to ask about." I walked to the built-in shelves where I kept my portfolio books, a decade of logos, campaigns, and brand identities that had helped other companies find their voice. I pulled one out, flipping it open so the pages fanned like a deck of cards. "These are my clients. National brands. Startups that became household names. I built a studio from nothing while you assumed I was barely scraping by." Aaron's mouth fell open. My mother blinked rapidly, as though trying to catch up with words that didn't fit her picture of me. "I own this apartment outright," I continued. "No mortgage. No hidden loans. It's the physical proof of every all-nighter. Every rejection I turned into an opportunity. And you want me to erase that because Aaron made reckless choices?" The silence was sharp enough to cut. My father cleared his throat, softer now. "Lena, we didn't know." "You never asked," I replied. The locket at my neck felt suddenly heavy, its tiny compass warm against my skin. Aaron finally found his voice. I didn't realize you were doing this well, he said, his tone teetering between awe and guilt. I met his eyes, steady and unflinching. That's because I stopped waiting for you or anyone to notice. My success isn't your safety net. My mother's fingers toyed with her napkin, twisting the linen into a tight rope. Her voice came out in a whisper. We should have listened to you years ago. I'm not heartless, I said, resting my palms on the chair back. But I won't erase years of work because Aaron miscalculated. Aaron flinched, his jaw tightening. My mother started to speak, but I held up a hand. If you want my help, it won't look like you think it will, I continued. There will be conditions. My father's eyes narrowed. Conditions? Yes, I said. Real change. Aaron, you need to take full responsibility for your finances. No more investments without a certified financial advisor and a repayment plan you create yourself. You'll send me monthly proof you're following it. If you need a small, interest-free loan to get started, I'll consider it. But you will pay it back, every cent. Aaron opened his mouth, then closed it again. I turned to my mother. And you, stop cushioning him. No secret bailouts. No quiet checks behind Dad's back. Let him stand on his own, even when it's uncomfortable. Her cheeks flushed pink, but she nodded slowly, the napkin in her hands finally still. Finally, I faced my father. You've spent years believing Aaron carries the family name while I chase hobbies. If you want any help from me, you'll start acknowledging my work for what it is, a career that matters. No more offhand remarks. No more dismissing what you don't understand. He held my gaze, the hard edge in his eyes softening. You're right, he said finally, the words almost a whisper. I sat down, the silk of my dress cool against my skin. If these terms aren't acceptable, then my answer is no. My apartment stays mine. My success is not a family resource. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the city below filled the silence. Car horns, a distant siren, life moving forward whether they agreed or not. Aaron leaned forward, shoulders slumped. I'll do it, he said, voice low. I'll get a plan together. I don't deserve this chance, but I'll earn it. My mother exhaled, almost a sigh of surrender. I'll stop covering for him, she said quietly. My father rubbed a hand over his face and gave a single nod. And I'll give your work the respect it deserves. It wasn't an apology, not yet. But it was a beginning. The silver locket at my throat seemed to warm, as if my grandmother's quiet compass approved. After the last guest trickled out, the apartment grew still. Only the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant shimmer of traffic reached my ears. The candles on the table had burned down to small pools of wax, their smoke curling like ghosts of the evening. Aaron lingered by the door, hands shoved deep in his coat pockets. He looked younger somehow, less the golden child, more the brother I'd once shared late-night ice cream with his kids. I'll make it right, he said quietly. Not just the money. The way I've been living, it's time I change that. I searched his face for the arrogance I'd come to expect, but found only weary resolve. I gave a single nod. I hope you do, Aaron. For yourself. He hesitated, then pulled me into a brief, awkward hug before slipping into the night. My parents remained a moment longer. My mother glanced around the apartment, at the art, the shelves of carefully arranged design books, the soft glow from the city outside. You've built something beautiful, she said, her voice almost fragile. I held her gaze. I built something I needed, even when you couldn't see it. Her eyes shone, and for a heartbeat, she looked like the young woman in the old family photos, before the years and expectations hardened her. She reached for my hand. I see it now. When they were gone, I walked to the wide windows. The city glittered below like 1,000 scattered compass points. I unclasped my grandmother's locket and opened it. The tiny compass engraving caught the light, the metal warm for my skin. Her words came back to me, as steady as the night air. Find your own north. I traced the compass with my thumb, a quiet thank you whispered into the dark. This apartment, these walls, these windows was more than a home. It was proof that I had followed my own map, no matter how many times others tried to redraw it. I closed the locket and fastened it at my throat, the metal settling against my heartbeat like an affirmation. I smiled, soft but certain. My north is right here, I murmured, and turned toward the life I had chosen. Aaron finally found his voice. I didn't realize you were doing this well, he said, his tone teetering between awe and guilt. I met his eyes, steady and unflinching. That's because I stopped waiting for you or anyone to notice. My success isn't your safety net. My mother's fingers toyed with her napkin, twisting the linen into a tight rope. Her voice came out in a whisper. We should have listened to you years ago.